What's up, folks? I'm Private Hudson, and today we're going to be taking a look at Rise of the Robots for the 3DO. Alright, boys and girls, let's all turn to page 342 of your 3DO textbook. Timmy, can you start reading from the next sentence? Rating, D-. A classic example of the great graphics, no gameplay syndrome. Rise of the Robots is very pretty to look at, but very sad otherwise. The game is easier to beat on the higher difficulty levels because of the retarded AI. I'm sorry, but a D- is way too generous for this type of garbage. Pretty much everything about Rise of the Robots is terrible, including this weird intro. It shows a bunch of title cards and logos with no sound or music or anything, then you get this weird screen that has options on the bottom. It's a short FMV sequence that barely gives you any time to react. A for English, B for Brian May, C for Japanese. If you don't do anything, which happened to me the first time around because I had no idea what the hell was going on, then you're presented with about 2 minutes of full motion video of your robot flying around in a spaceship, docking into a building, and then running around. Each 20-second sequence is then broken up into 10 seconds of loading up the next sequence. Some funky music plays in the background, but that's about it. So I restarted the game, pressed C, and lo and behold, there was a narrator speaking in Japanese. Okay, I restarted again, and this time pressed A for English, and boy, it was sure worth it to hear this gripping tale.
Desperate to regain control of the Metropolis 4 factory, ElectroCorp has revealed its top-secret ECO cyborg, half-human and thus incorruptible by the ego virus. You must become the mind...
I rebooted for a third time to select the Brian May option and was graced with about 30 seconds of his music, which was apparently enough to put his name on the game. It's like when DVDs became popular and they started re-releasing old Hong Kong movies that Jackie Chan was in. It didn't matter if he was in it for 5 minutes or 5 seconds, they'd slap his face on the cover and try to spin it off as a lost Jackie Chan classic to make a quick buck. They sure fooled me because I have like 20 of these goddamn things. Anyway, let's get to the main menu. In the options, you can change the language, difficulty, time limit, and number of rounds per match, as well as the option to enable or disable the cinematics. And the cinematics is probably where the entire budget of the game went. If you thought the intro was obnoxious, just wait for the actual game to start, because here we get more pointless FMVs of your robot running around hallways, and then an intro video of the enemy robot approaching you to fight while some funky music plays in the background. And this happens for every single fight. Yes, the videos can be skipped by pressing start or by disabling them in the options, but that's not the point. The point here is that this game has about 20 minutes worth of content, and the rest of the 700 megabyte disk space was allocated by pushing as much pointless video as possible. The first fight is against a loader bot that looks like it was ripped off of Aliens. The second is a gorilla-looking robot. The third is a grasshopper-looking thing, while the fourth is just called Military. Yeah, that's a great fucking original name for a robot. Military. Well, what happens when you beat all 4 of them? Guess what? You get to fight all 4 of them again in the exact same order, with the same FMVs playing in between them again. Brilliant. Combat is absolutely dreadful. The A, B, and C buttons are used for light, medium, and heavy punches, or kicks. To kick, you do need to hold down one of the 3DO controller's shoulder buttons. Yeah, I know this pad was never good for fighting games, but even if the console came with a better controller, it certainly would not have helped this game. You see, when you play a real fighting game, the animations between light and medium and heavy attacks are all different. In Rise of the Robots, the animations are all exactly the same. The only way that you can tell the difference between a light attack and a heavy attack is for how long it takes for the animation to reset. And speaking of animations, there are barely any of them, as you go from kicking to standing instantaneously. Special moves are almost non-existent, and I wasn't even recording when I finally figured out how to pull off the two, yes that's right, two whopping moves that my character has. It wasn't even worth figuring it out as the damage was pitiful, but also the entire strategy simply revolves around kicking your opponent to death. After you beat the same robots again for the second time around, you fight the security robot. After that, it's time for the boss, simply called the Supervisor, which is a cheap Terminator 2 T-1000 knockoff. Losing to this one at least gives you a semi-cool death FMV, but once you beat the Supervisor, you get a short video of all the robot death sequences, followed by the credits, a game over screen, and then the title screen again that you can't exit out of. That's right. The only way to get back to the menu is to restart the game by either ejecting the disc tray or resetting the console. Absolutely brilliant design. Then again, there isn't really anything to do after finishing the game, so the developers must have thought that this was the perfect way to end it. There is a two-player versus mode, but it's the same goddamn thing, except you're playing against a human instead of shitty AI. And at least here, player 2 can actually choose one of the 4 robots to fight against you. But if you're player 1, no, I'm sorry, you get to play as the same shitty robot as you did in the single player. I think that the most fascinating thing about Rise of the Robots was the fact that they ported this to almost everything. It originally came out on Amiga and PC. I'm playing here the 3DO version, but it was also released on the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, the Sega Game Gear, yes, the handheld. And if you thought the Game Gear release was weird, it also came out on the fucking Philips CDI, of all things. And get this, it also had a sequel that came out for PlayStation, the Sega Saturn, and PC. Unbelievable. How does a game this bad get released to so many different systems and get a sequel? I don't understand. Rise of the Robots is one of the worst fighting games that I've ever played. Jewel case and manual copy for the 3DO will run you maybe about $10 to $15. Finding it complete in the original long box is a bit more difficult, and price will depend on the condition of the box itself. Either way, it isn't worth it. I don't even think it's worth wasting a CDR to burn this game.